So, welcome everyone to Midlife Unfiltered. The season of me. It's great to have you here. I'm Anita McLaughlin, and there is
Erica Webb.
Erica Webb. And yeah, we've been doing this for what, about, I don't know, just over a year now, maybe a bit longer, 15 months or so. And we talk about topics that either are not talked about often, that we feel need to be spoken about, particularly that affect women in midlife. And we try to bust some myths around some information that we're given about what you're supposed to experience or what midlife is supposed to look like. So we love talking about some, pretty hot topics and some interesting topics. And peppered in with that is our personal experience too, just to make it a bit more real and relatable with you. Oh, there's Alex, our good mate Alex. Hello,
Yes.
darling. Sending you a big kiss and a hug. So that's a bit about us this week. I know I'm taking I'm doing all of that at the intro now, but we decided to talk a bit about dementia. Mainly because this month in September is Dementia Awareness Month. I know it's Awareness Month for other things too, but I subscribe to quite a few dementia resource sites out there and got quite a few emails to remind me of Dementia Awareness Month. So this is our bit to talk about dementia, and also to share not only a bit about our journeys with dementia, because not only do we twin in navy blue at the same time, we also have loved a parent and had a parent in our life with the same form of dementia. And that's pretty extraordinary too, isn't it, Erica?
It is, yeah, and we didn't even know. I remember for a while we both knew that we had a parent with dementia, but at some point one of us must have specifically talked about the type and kind of had one of those moments of like, oh my gosh, really? Because it's not super common. So yeah.
No, yeah. And it's certainly not common for it was your mum and my dad. They both had, and we say had because they've both since passed from their dementia, frontotemporal dementia, which when I say to people, Dad had frontotemporal dementia, they go, oh, I don't know that one. Because Alzheimer's, people think that Alzheimer's is the only form of dementia, I think, because it does get the lion's share of the conversation because it is the most common form of dementia. But when I say, oh, no, the kind like Bruce Willis had, and they go, oh, now I that twigs something for me. So yeah, his wife Emma Hemming Willis is extraordinary. What she is doing in the space for awareness and education, and also carer awareness and care is really important. And so much so, I'll give her a plug. And Emma, we'll tag you. Hopefully you're on Substack. If you're not, thank you so much. This is her book, the what's it called? The Unexpected Journey. And it's just come out. It is intended to be a guidebook for those who are navigating this very torturous and challenging journey of dementia. So we decided we'd talk about that a little bit today, and also let you know that if you want to contribute to a series that we're putting together about dementia, it's bubbling away in the background, gathering personal stories from people who want to share their experience with dementia, then we'd love for you to do the same. I think it'll be something that will be very powerful. We both believe in the importance of telling personal stories, don't we, Erica, in this podcast as well?
We sure do. Sorry, there's a lot of noise at my house today, so I'm just going to mute and unmute as I need to. But yeah, that the personal story part I think is really important because it's something that, I think there's a lot of things in life that unless you live through it, you really don't understand. And that's just the truth of so many things, right? It's quite hard to put yourself in other people's shoes sometimes. And I think by sharing these stories, sometimes our own experiences can help somebody else who's maybe not got the people around to talk it through with, or who haven't had that experience and feel maybe a little bit dismissed or a little bit like they're experiencing it wrong or something like that. I think it can really help to have that insight. So, yeah, we'd love for you to reach out. I know Anita's been putting a lot of work into that series in the background. So that would be wonderful.
Yeah. And just to put a bit of context around it, other than our personal experiences with a parent having dementia, I was telling Erica just a bit before we came on today that um, every year I go away with a group of girls that I used to work with, and we honor a friend of ours, a very, very dear bestie of ours who passed away from breast cancer in 2020. So we gather each year to remember her and catch up and reconnect. And it's a very nourishing time, essential part of our midlives now. We're all in our, except for one, she's soon to be 50, but we're all in our mid 50s thereabouts. And I was reflecting on the conversations that we typically have when we gather. There's five of us when we gather. And the first 2 years, a lot of the conversation was around menopause because we were in the thick of it, experiencing it, and we shared, what that looked like and felt like for each of us. And it was good to kind of have those conversations and share our experiences and learn from each other. But this year, the conversation was very much around dementia. And out of the five of us, yeah, I think there is only one out of the five who has not experienced dementia with either her parent or in-law, but she works in the aged care space for Bupa here in Australia, so she is very much entrenched in what that means. So we've all been touched very deeply by dementia. And I know now, statistically in Australia, it's the number one killer for women in Australia and number two for men, behind cardiovascular disease. I know. So this is a topic that we really need to bust some myths around and also give a lot more airtime to, both, from a research point of view, from a treatment point of view. So if you're an, expert in that area from a health point of view and the caring that's involved, oh my God, that was some of the biggest lessons we learned as a family and hard decisions we had to make around not only caring for dad, but caring for mum who was caring for dad, navigating the whole health system and getting enough support, the most appropriate support, the shame that was involved for mum at the beginning, like admitting that this was something that was happening, that had literally come out of left field, oh, it's just so much. It's just, and then financially, how do you support someone who needs help? It's just such a big beast. So I really feel that it's something we need to talk a lot more about because it's going to hit each and every one of us. Don't you think, Erica? I reckon
Yeah.
each and every one of us will be hit in some way, shape, or form by dementia.
Yeah. Well, from everything that I've read, it's certainly on the incline as well. And so, and it's one of those things where, sometimes when you bring this topic up, I must admit my instinct is to put my head under the pillows and just not go there because I find it really distressing. And there's fear in that too. I think that's the other part that we need to talk about at some point is how we manage the fear for ourselves because, that was a really massive thing I know for me when my mum was diagnosed was like, is that my destiny? And
Yep.
um that's a big thing. And I think, the more that I sit with that, the more I recognize that burying that under a pillow is not the solution, even though it's my first instinct. And so, yeah, I think given that we are all going to be touched by that in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a parent or an in-law or a
Well,
spouse, even it's going to be something that a lot of us have to deal with, and um, you're right, it touches on every facet of life. Like there's nothing that gets nothing that gets missed in that. So it's huge, and maybe that's why we do avoid it as a people because it is kind of overwhelming and it's scary and it's confronting in so many
yeah.
ways. And I'd rather talk about so many other things, but it's deeply important. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, we have to go there. We absolutely do. Because as you say, you can bury your head in the sand for a bit or under the pillow, but eventually you have to face it. Or you don't have to, but the consequences of not. Because I know I have very mixed feelings about having been through it with dad. There is light in the dark. We need to bust that myth too, that it's just completely um overwhelmingly difficult, which it is, but in there are these sparks and these gems of light and very precious moments that you just want to hang on to and not let go of, or remember forever. Probably because they are rare in all of that. Um, and having said that, the flip is I just remember most of the time going, this is just a never ending downhill slide of making difficult decisions, one after the other. And like you have to gasp and come up for air at times because it just seems like you have to face so many difficult things in succession and sometimes at the same time. It's really, yeah, that decision making and constant tweaking. Like just when you think you've got that done and sorted, my God, something else pops up. So yeah, it is an extraordinarily difficult journey, but with light in the dark as well. So there's as you say, the and bit, this and that we often have to contend with. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So, we really didn't want to dive too much into what dementia is. Though I've got to tell you, I was floored by this stat. Are you ready? There is somewhere between 120, depending on the resource that you go to, 120 forms of dementia.
Really?
Yep. And I recently AI'd it all, right? Looked it up. Another site said there's 400 forms of dementia.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just Alzheimer's and um it's not just three or four major types. There are derivations of derivations of
Mm.
derivations. Like even with frontotemporal dementia, right? There's three streams of that, to the
Yeah.
best of my knowledge, and maybe there's an expert out there that can go,
Yeah.
well, no, that's not right. There's actually X, Y, Z, but there is the form like Bruce has, which is the one that affects speech, and I believe that's what
Yeah.
you experienced with your mum.
Correct.
Yeah. Whereas with my dad, it was personality change. Um,
Mm.
Particularly in the first few months, it was like wild. Who is this person?
Well,
Um,
actually, that happened to my mum as well. It
as
actually was
well.
started with personality, then it was speech. Yeah.
Right. Well, dad went from personality to physical decline, rapid,
Mm.
real physical decline. Yeah. So yeah, but so there are variations and derivations within different forms.
Mm.
And Alzheimer's is extraordinarily different to frontotemporal, in
Yes.
ways. So I think it's important that we appreciate the diversity of dementia and
Mm.
that even though there might be similarities in our experiences, ultimately everyone will experience it differently and the impacts that we'll have will be, nuanced differently
Yeah.
for everyone involved. But
Yes.
there are some similarities that we can bring to light, I think. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it affects families and relationships differently too, depending on what else is going on, right? And I think that's an important thing to consider as well. And I think that is something that's worth pointing out because you can hear other people's stories, and if it doesn't quite fit with your experience, again, you can have that feeling of like, well, maybe I'm getting it wrong. And it's like, well, maybe it's just different, maybe it's just different. Maybe it's just your experience, and that is what it is. Um, so yeah, it's something that can be so varied in its impact depending on a whole host of factors, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Alex has made a comment there. I think it's by talking about it that we can prepare ourselves better. That is so true. You know, there is a lot of learning from each other's experiences too, and that's certainly why we want to do the dementia series and bring different perspectives to the table about lived experience, and also from different experts as well. But there's so much in that preparation, because when you're swimming in the midst of it, trying to keep your mouth above the waterline in the overwhelm, it's hard to make space for anything new, at the same time. And that
Yeah, I can shift.
preparation is key. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Well, we will leave some links in the show notes, as we say, to where you can, if you would like to contribute by sharing your story, your lived experience with dementia with somebody, and we're calling it Loving Someone with Dementia, inspired by the work of, I'll bring up another book, Pauline Boss, who is the boss. She opened up my eyes through this book about so many aspects of dementia, and again, focusing on the carers, impact on carers as well. But she coined the term ambiguous loss, which
Mm.
is something that I think we all need to be aware of on this dementia journey as well. It's when somebody's there, but they're not really, and we mourn for who they once were, even though they're physically here. And that is definitely the case with dementia. Yeah, it's quite.
Yeah, there's another term that's often used, not specifically with dementia, but anywhere where there's like loss in, changes in relationships and things, which is just living loss, and an ambiguous loss as well. And this idea that you are grieving somebody who is still present, I think, is so challenging. That is something that doesn't get talked about a lot. Um, I remember when my mum got sick, people would be like, "Be grateful she's still here." And I was like, I think you're missing the point.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
really, yeah, quite insensitive, but I knew it was coming from the right place. Like it was coming from a loving place, but it always hit, it always missed the mark. Because that's the thing with dementia. They're gone, they're gone in so many ways. There's not, and like we said, with the form that both of our parents had, personality went first. And so, you know, you're grieving a relationship, you're grieving a person, you're grieving what could have been. I was really, I was only in my 30s still when my mum was diagnosed. And so um, there is the complexity of grief and loss within dementia is unbelievable. It's far reaching and into so many different areas. And as a culture that doesn't really talk very well about loss and grief,
yeah,
that's huge.
yeah. Wow. I think we're definitely going to have to do another deeper dive into ambiguous loss and living loss, Erica.
Yeah.
Let's do
Yeah,
that down the
absolutely.
track part of the series as well. Go deeper
Yeah.
with that, because, yeah, it is something that struck us very, very deeply. And when you can say, like, I remember the conversation like it was yesterday with mum, when she was trying to grapple with how she was feeling and the impact it was having, when she appreciated that it was a form of grieving, it kind of gave her the ability to breathe just a little bit. Oh, I can label that now, and I can understand and appreciate it a little bit better. And yeah, that's how it feels. So once we could label it as a form of grief, it actually gave her some relief in a way that she could better understand how she was feeling and why
Mm.
feeling that way. Yeah.
So
Mm.
important. I think that's really common with grief. Again, and I think it's partly because we just don't talk about it very much. To label it, I think it opens the doorway to self compassion too, because if you're unable to label it, if you're unable to kind of put your finger on what you're experiencing, the default is sort of just to turn on yourself and to assume that you've done something wrong or you're experiencing it
No,
incorrectly, right? Because
yeah.
there's so much in that around the challenges of loving someone going through that. Because sometimes people with those, different forms of dementia can get very violent, they can get very aggressive, they can get just outright mean. My mum was quite mean at times, not always, but yeah, there's this shift in who you knew, and it's like grief is the best word for that. And I think, if there's one thing that we can do within the normalization, I guess, of all of this stuff, it is to talk more openly about the grieving process, because grief is not exclusively for death. It
Death.
just isn't. There's so many things. We grieve so much over a lifetime, and so much of it is that living in ambiguous loss. So, yeah, we definitely need to spend a bit more time going there. So people know that when they're experiencing these things, that it's not a fault, it's not a defect, it's not them screwing it up. It's just being human. And like this shit's hard. Like it's just straight up hard. And I think that's, we want to make things palatable and better and easier. And this is one of those things that's just, like you said, there can be lightness in it for sure. I didn't experience a lot of that though, I must admit. But some things are just hard, right? And we just have to find a way to like love ourselves through it too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's huge. So yeah, for anyone who's sort of sitting there listening to this and maybe experiencing that, please know that you're not alone. Like it is so tough.
Yeah. It is bloody hard. Yeah. And you're not doing it wrong. You are
Never.
absolutely doing the best you can with what you know and with what you have. Um, yeah, you are doing the best you can. There's no right and wrong. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Well, thank you, Erica. Lovely to see you again. If you
Likewise.
and next time maybe we do need to have a conversation, say, what do you intend on wearing? But no, it's been lovely to catch up with you again. And thank you for tuning in. And remember, if there is something you would like to share about your dementia journey with somebody that you have loved or still love, please reach out. Email us at hello@midlifeunfiltered.com.au because we are in Australia.com.au. We would love to hear from you and to see whether we can perhaps do a Substack live with you, or if you prefer, organize a pre-recorded chat, which is what I've done with a few other people so far, and we'll piece it together as our dementia series down the track. And if you work in the industry, caring for those with dementia in some way, shape, or form, we'd love to hear from you too, to get your perspective, insights, and loving tips, I think, too. Yeah, that would be great. Thanks so much. Yeah, see you next time. Thanks,
Bye,
ladies.
Nita.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.